Welcome to the Happy Black Woman Podcast, where we're on a mission to empower women to transform their lives through personal development and entrepreneurship. We bring you all the information, inspiration, and motivation you need to create a life of happiness, success, and freedom. Now, please welcome your host, the happy Black woman herself, Rosetta Thurman.
Hello, ladies, and welcome back to the Happy Black Woman Podcast. This is Rosetta, and I am joined with one of my favorite Happy Black women, Miss Regine. And I really just wanted to bring to you another Black woman entrepreneur who is doing what she loves and really doing it in her own unique and special way. But before we dive into the interview with Miss Regine, I want to let you know how you can surround yourself with all kinds of women who are in our Happy Black Woman tribe, doing what they love and building incredible lifestyles around that. And that is at our upcoming event, the Location Independent Business Academy live 3-day intensive in Washington, D.C. If you have not registered yet, you need to go to our website, locationindependent2016.com. That's locationindependent2016.com, and get your early bird ticket because we are almost sold out and doors are closing. So if you want to be in this kind of conversation in the flesh, in person, you need to join us in DC. So with that, we shall welcome Regine. Hello, lady.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so cool to have you here on the line, and so cool to have you on this podcast. I mean, I know that we've had a chance to work together in our Happy Black Woman Mastermind program. So I've gotten a chance to get to know Regine a bit about what she's up to, but what she does is so interesting and so unique, and I just love her mission. So can you start us off by telling us, a little bit about your mission and the work that you do?
Absolutely. So I create transformational retreats that are spiritual for people of color. My vision really is to create an ecosystem where Black people can come together around transformational work in a beautiful, off the beaten path and luxurious environment.
Wonderful. So having your business be based on producing retreats and making sure that they are not just vacations, but they have this aspect of spiritual transformation in them, and they're in beautiful locations. So give us an example of one of the kinds of retreats that you put together. I think you have one coming up.
I do. So my retreat coming up in November is for women. This is the Phenomenal Woman Sisterhood and Self-Care Retreat off of a little tiny village in Chincones, Mexico, which is on the Mexican Riviera on the west side. And I wanted it to be like disconnected, way away. You feel like you're definitely in another country. And it's just going to be around this idea of Black women coming together, nurturing each other, supporting each other, and digging deep, having the conversations that we don't get to have every day because we're working and taking care of family and friends and our communities. And so I want to create an environment that will cultivate internal vacation as well as external vacations.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So tell me, Regine, how did you actually get into doing this? Because, I know that you're so passionate about travel, and like, how did you even begin to plan like your first trip, and where does the spiritual aspect come in for you?
So it's kind of a long journey, as I guess a lot of journeys are. I'm an attorney, and I still work as an attorney. I worked as an attorney for 20 years. And my last position, I had a really high profile job that pretty much consumed me. And it didn't end well. And, after it ended, I kind of felt just lost and disappointed and dismayed. And I had the opportunity to kind of sit and have the space to think and really ask myself hard questions about, okay, this was a great run. I went into law because I love to help people, and I still do. And what do I want the next 20 years of my life to look like? And I started to kind of unravel why my last position ended the way that it did. And I came up with some answers that I frankly really didn't like. I realized that somewhere along the way, I've been a student of truth and of self-development for 20 some odd years. I've read every book there is to read. But somewhere along the way, I got so wrapped up into what I was doing rather than who I am, and wrapped up into, I think, connecting my self-worth with my job. And I was like, this is not who I want to be. I want my work to be a direct reflection of who I am, so that I don't leave my personality at the door when I leave work every day. And I started to think, okay, well, what could I do that's more in alignment with my interests and my personality and my values? I love to travel, as you say. I've gone so many places around the world, and I love to retreat. I've gone on retreats, and when I go on retreats, I don't see people that look like me. I'm usually like the only Black person there, never really seen maybe I've been on one retreat where I've seen like a Black man or something, but it's not, unfortunately, it's not too common. And I've held retreats before with smaller groups of women. And I thought, I think I want to dive into this. I want to create an ecosystem where we can be together, because we have our own walk, we have our own stories, but we need to disconnect from the madness of this world from time to time. I just think that it's no longer an option to have some time to reflect. It's a necessity if you're going to really be balanced and really have a fulfilling and happy life. And so I decided, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And I don't have to leave anything at the door. I don't have to park any part of myself in the car before I walk into the building of my new workspace. I can bring my full self into it and be my full self. And every time I think about it, it gives me chills. And that's what I want for everybody, just to be your full self in everything that you do, and particularly into your life's work, what you do every day for 8 or 10 hours a day.
Yeah. When you think about it, most people, end up spending more time at work than they do with their family, with their friends. On average, on a weekly basis, at least 40 hours you're giving to your job. And if you don't like it, and if it's so disconnected from who you are and what your purpose is, that's a lot of time where you're not fully being yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible how it's just accepted that you have to do these certain jobs, and you kind of made that decision for yourself. And when you're talking, about self-reflection being a necessity, I was thinking, well, most people do not have that mindset at all, of reflection being a necessity. It's like a nice thing. Like, I wish I could do that kind of statement that people would have. So what do you say to the woman who says, I know that I need to take time for self-reflection and self-care and all of that, but I'm too freaking busy. I can't do it. Like, what's your response to that?
So my response to that is, all right, let's talk about what the alternative is. And let's look at some statistics around what's happening to us as a culture. Let's talk about how much prescription drug use is so pervasive now that we're taking more prescription drugs than we've ever had before. Let's talk about the amount of depression and anxiety that we're suffering. Let's talk about how Black women now is number one in heart attacks. Let's talk about what the stress is doing to our bodies, our minds, our families. Let's talk about when you're going to dinner and the kids are, every child has an iPad or phone, and the parents are maybe talking to each other or maybe not, maybe on the phone. So that's the picture. That's what's happening now. So why I say it's a necessity is that if we continue to drive ourselves without the rest, I mean, our bodies are not meant to be under constant stress. And it's going to continue. We're going to continue to have these issues, these conflict issues, these interpersonal issues until we stop and say enough is enough. You know, it's no longer an option. Meditation was on the cover of People a couple of weeks ago, I think I hear. And so more and more, I think we're beginning to realize that we have to find a better way. And for people of color, you know, I think it's Tavis Smiley or Cornel West. One of them says that, you know, when white America catches a cold, Black America catches pneumonia. So for people of color, you know, we just cannot afford to be on the grind all the time and applaud that like that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that there's so many women listening and saying, well, you know, I don't know any other way to be. I have to do this so I can provide for my family. And what I hear you saying and what I'm always saying to people is that it's not an either or. It's not I work hard and provide for your family or, you know, live in the sky like a fairy and self-reflect and take care of myself. It's not an either or, it's both and. And it makes me think of that quote from Audre Lorde. I read a lot of her work when I was in college and just really resonated me, the quote that she has about self-care when she says, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation. And that is an act of political warfare. And I thought of that the other day, too, as, you know, we're seeing so much police brutality and violence against Black Americans. For all my international sisters listening, they just like can't believe what's going on over here. It's just in times like this, it's even more important. And that is, you know, what comes up for me when you say, you know, for people of color, it's even more important because we have all of these external things happening that could really cause us to, you know, feel depressed and just really feeling like we don't have control over what's going on. And that seeps into our work, our family relationships, all that kind of stuff. So when you say that you create retreats for people of color, like what are some special things that happen in your retreats or, you know, as part of the experience that, you know, you feel specific and important to people of color?
So what I focus on during the retreats is a sense of indulgence for the time, which means pampering. You know, we're going to be having massages right on the beach and just allowing ourselves to be. In terms of directly related to being a Black woman, it's having the sisterhood, having the synergy and the energy of women who are like-minded, who understand, walk your walk, talk your talk. You know, we can just look at each other with a glance and say, and that speaks volumes, right? I mean, there's just a way that we communicate with each other that
and we don't even need words. We don't even need words. It could even be a look. It could just be a look. And we know exactly what's going on.
Yes. And that's a beautiful and valuable part of our culture. And so being in an environment where we can celebrate that, you know, without feeling some kind of way that, you know, we're being looked at or whatever it is, that it's just open and free. And that's the environment that we're cultivating. And, you know, in addition to the regular stuff like daily meditation and daily yoga and healthy, you know, organic foods that don't make you feel heavy and bloated and all those types of things, and being outdoors and breathing in fresh air, everything that we are also entitled to, that I think we don't always realize or accept or know that we have as much right to that as everybody else.
That's a great point. A great point about doing the indulgence. And people think pampering, again, it's something that you should be treated to maybe only on your birthday or, you know, for the holidays, or maybe, you know, cousin might get you something, but to give this gift to yourself is something that I know a lot of women are not comfortable with. And also, putting in the space for spiritual renewal and reflection. I think that a lot of Black women relegate their spirituality to maybe a church, an organized religion, and they go to church and they feel like that's it. But it's not exactly what you're talking about, which is getting into a quiet place. I mean, the Black church is a noisy place, actually.
Yes.
That was always my favorite part of church. I don't go to church anymore, but when I did, I was really into it. I was a super Christian, actually, and I did the scripture reading and the usher and I went mainly for the music. That's where my renewal came from. So I'm used to the spiritual experience being really loud. And then when I found meditation and everything, was just a different experience. I still was able to have my relationship with God, but it was a quieter, more reflective experience. So we've had, people on here that everybody has their different way of accessing that. So I wondered if you can give our listeners, 3 strategies that they can get started with for their own spiritual transformation, reflection, even if they don't go on retreat or maybe even have their own retreat. What are 3 ways they can get started with that?
So what I do every morning is I wake up and I just take time to meditate. And so, every day I have a daily meditative practice. Sometimes it's guided. Sometimes I just listen to my breath or engage all of my 5 senses, whatever it is, but a meditative practice. And then journaling, just jotting down my thoughts, my feelings, whatever it is that maybe a dream that I had, that's something that throughout the ages, different cultures, journaling is a powerful way to clear out the clutter in our minds. And then finally, gratitude. Gratitude, again, time tested. It is the thing that attracts more of what we want to us when we are grateful for what we have. And so I think if we begin to consistently exercise these 3 actions every day, it will make a huge, huge, huge difference in our lives.
So I love those suggestions. And I also know that there's still, there's ladies that are saying, I can't get away to Mexico for a retreat. Okay, fine. But then now there are people saying, well, I can't make time for the meditation
right.
and that. So how do you address that? What do you tell that woman that's like, well, I can't even barely get a moment to myself to use the bathroom. How am I going to sit down and meditate?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's a different way of life, but it's kind of, I'm going to give 2 analogies. The first is, you have your car, right? You drive your car, you have your pit stops to get gas, and then every 3,000 miles you go in to get it serviced. And what that does is helps the car run better, run more efficiently, effectively, safer, and then you go every year, you go to your doctor, you get a mammogram, you get, a pap smear, you make sure that everything is okay, your blood tests. And every day you brush your teeth and you comb your hair and you have, these hygiene rituals for your body. So where is the hygiene ritual for your mind, your spirit? Where are the check-ins for your mental health? It's the same exact thing, So if you have time to brush your teeth and to eat, then you have time to sit for 5 minutes every day, and time will begin to expand for you when you begin to take control of your time. Because what that says, if you're saying, I don't have time to meditate and to create a practice for myself, that means that you're not in control of your time. You're giving your time away. And so what I'm suggesting is just to try it for a week. Find the time. It's there. People do it. People do it every day. They have the same 24 hours. So it's available and it will expand for you.
That was a great piece that you just gave us. Time will expand when we allow it to, pretty much. And so I love, how you said, if you have time to brush your teeth and wash your face, that's 5 minutes right there. You should have time to meditate as well. And I was just thinking, yeah, and get our hair done and get our nails done and all the other things that we do that takes up so much time. It is so hard for me to sit. I love getting my nails done, but it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to take half an hour, 45 minutes. I have things to do, but I do it because I want my nails to look good, right?
Right.
So, of course, we can do the same thing when it comes to our self-care, our meditation, and just being quiet and reflection. So, Regine, talked a little bit about, how you turned this passion of yours into a business, and now you're running retreats. Your first one's in November. Can you tell us a little bit about how you stay focused and productive, maybe even using your tools to stay on track with your business that you have going now?
Sure. Well, thankfully, I have been a part of your mastermind, which has helped immensely in terms of structure. It's interesting because I'm a lawyer, and so I live by structure and rules. And this is a completely new realm for me, the heart-centered thing and being in a different space. So I had to learn how to use, because I'm now using my creative energies, which I hadn't really used before. I use templates and thinking and rational thinking. So I really needed a new system. And so what the mastermind process provided for me was being able to plug into a system that works. And part of that includes having an accountability partner that I have to check in with. So I know that means I have to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. And having measured objectives by which I know that, okay, I need to do a marketing plan and I need to have, your systems really, I love them because they're just plug and play. If you follow the steps, you're going to be okay. And I'm a list person anyway, so I love lists. I have list of lists, and that really helps me every day kind of map out, okay, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. This is what I'm going to do this week. And then I check them off. And I have different apps that I use that help. I like Todoist is a new one that I discovered.
Todoist, is that?
Todoist, like T-O. Yeah, Todoist.
Oh,
Todoist.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's an app.
That's an app that I use that helps me kind of stay on track with what I need to accomplish. And so, so those are the two main big helpers: accountability and my lists, and then of course the program.
It's amazing to realize like how much there is when you get into it, and how important having a support network is. And I think that's another, for me, an aspect of self-care, because I was raised to do everything on my own, and I'm the oldest child, so to have that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It definitely, for me, is even an act of self-care to ask for help, to ask for support, to have those people around you. I'm in a mastermind group myself. I believe in it. I have my own accountability partner. So I just teach you guys what I believe in. And I think, in general, women of color are hesitant to reach out for any kind of help, even, paying for the help, like for babysitter or for, somebody to clean their house, for somebody to bounce their ideas off of. It's just, I have to do it all on my own. And I kind of know where that comes from, but I wonder, how you deal with that in your retreats. Like, does it take us a little while to like settle down, like get out of that mode?
Yes, it does. That's why, I think, so this retreat is going to be 5 nights, but really, frankly, ideally, you need to retreat for like at least seven nights, because, the first couple of days, you're still kind of thinking about home and what you had to do and what and you're kind of settling in. And it just takes a while for our bodies and minds to just slow down and really begin to soak in the environment. And then think about and process, okay, what do I want to get out of it? What's my intention? And what do I want to work on? So we are going to come away, we're going to do some spiritual work around mindfulness exercises every day to begin to slow the pace of our active minds, and then begin to access our real resources. The mind is a useful tool, but it shouldn't be running the show. And so learning how to tap into the creativity part of us that's That's the genius, to get to the genius. And then using the mind to execute. That's what we want. Mm-hmm. But that's a process. That's a process. And that's something that, we have to cultivate. And so that's what we'll be doing on the retreat. And then coming away with, what are my values? Like when do people have that conversation, right? So when do you sit around and think about, you do it, Rosetta, because that's your business. But most people don't ask themselves that question and contemplate and sit down and write it out and think about it. And then where is my money and my time, my energy and my focus going? Is it going to what I say I value? That's an analysis. You got to really figure that out. Like, when do you have the space and time to do that? Yeah. Every day. You just don't. You don't have it. And so that's why, and people go on retreats all the time. Richard Branson is like a huge, he calls them inspiration vacations. Like, that's where he gets his ideas. Yeah. Bill Gates calls them think weeks, where he just doesn't work. He sits and thinks, so the successful people who are living creative lives know and understand that they need to tap into that part of themselves, the genius part of themselves. In order to do that, though, you can't do it in front of the television set or with your kids screaming, right. Mom, I'm hungry. It's just not gonna happen.
It doesn't happen. No, I love the focus on taking that time, carving that time out. And so I'm just really glad that we had you come on the show to talk about the power of retreat and spiritual reflection, and really the importance of doing it within our communities of color. Very important, especially in times like these. Yeah. So excited about your work and to support you continually in our mastermind program. And I know that people listening, you guys are just getting a little bit of Regine's wisdom and truth. And I know people are going to want to stay in touch with you and learn more about your upcoming retreat. So how can they do that?
So you can go on my website. It's reginethetravelqueen.com, all one word. So it's REGINE, thetravelqueen.com, all one word. And all of my information's on there. I also have a Facebook page, Regine the Travel Queen, where I post a lot. I do Facebook Lives every Thursday at 6 p.m. where I just talk about different topics. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to be talking about why we need mentors, which is kind of what we discussed earlier today. So those are the two ways that people can get in touch with me. My website, Regine the Travel Queen, and then on Facebook.
Wonderful. Awesome, Regine. Well, thank you again for sharing your time with us. And for all the ladies listening, if you have not made time to go back and binge listen to the previous episodes, you should totally do that. We've had some incredible guests, just like Regine, to be on the show and pour their wisdom into our listeners so generously. So if you haven't done that, go to happyblackwomanpodcast.com and you can get all the previous episodes. All right, ladies, until next time, have a beautiful day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Happy Black Woman podcast. If you want all the show's notes from today's episode, go to happyblackwomanpodcast.com. Plus, we'll send you a copy of Rosetta's free life mapping workbook. We look forward to empowering you next time. And until then, do something this week that makes you happy.